Now at 6, the Grasshopper fire continues to burn this morning, and as daylight breaks, the smell of smoke and a hazy sky, a reminder of the conditions crews are still facing. We're live with the latest.
Plus, crazy video out of eastern Oregon showing a spinning column of fire rising out of a wildfire. The science behind this scary scene coming up.
And we are taking a live look at the Rose City because today is another KGW weather impact alert for continuing heat and poor air quality. Chris McGinnis has what you need to know before heading out the door this morning and later.
He's about 3 years old, right? And he's in an adult life vest, and he's like in it. He's bobbing in and out of the water.
Some teens in Virginia are being hailed as heroes after they rescued a group of kayakers, including a small child. The crucial detail that should have kept them out of the water in the first place coming up as your news at sunrise starts right now.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us on your Thursday. I'm China Green.
And I'm Matthew Herchik. We will get to your weather and traffic in just a minute, but first, we have some breaking news in southeast Portland. Portland Fire and Rescue is responding to a commercial fire on Southeast 82nd and Duke. They say a small fire burning on the exterior of the building extended to the roof and its plywood framing. This is a live look from our Sunrise photojournalist Eric Patterson, who is live at the scene. Crews needed to use a saw to work on this fire. Fire and Rescue say that the threat of the fire has been eliminated, but crews are still working to fully extinguish it.
And for a look at how this is impacting your commute, we're going to head over to Chris for a look at that.
Yeah, right at 82nd Avenue. Let's take you there on the traffic map. This is on 82nd between Woodstock and Duke. In fact, there you can see the camera from the Portland Bureau of Transportation as Portland Fire Rescue have their trucks out dealing with that. Here's the live shot from photojournalist Eric Patterson. Again, that area is blocked off. Again, we're talking about 82nd Avenue between Woodstock and Duke. That is a no-go for now. We'll certainly keep you posted on that as we roll on. Let's get you roll on into the weather for today. And of course, yes, our weather impact alert continues for today, Thursday, for wildfire smoke. The live look from our Rose City sky camera again shows that murky haze that is hanging over the city. That is all wildfire smoke. That's not cloud cover. Currently 63 degrees last check at PDX. So our air quality alert continues for the Portland, Vancouver metro area and the I-5 corridor through at least 11 a.m. today. I want to point out that there has been some improvement, and significant improvement is in our forecast. But for right now, air quality remains unhealthy for some, or just unhealthy here across the metro area. And in fact, in some cases, you get out towards Hood River County, that purple dot representing very unhealthy air. That, of course, in the immediate downwind area of the Grasshopper fire. So once again, if you're going to spend any time outside today, it's recommended that you wear a mask, an N95 mask, to filter out that fine particulate from the smoke. The headline, though, is that as we go through the day today, I expect gradual improvement in the air quality, at least for those of us west of the Cascades. So the smoke will become more patchy. As that patchy smoke continues to diminish, we're going to get more sunshine, which means temperatures today are going to be a bit warmer. We were 90 the day before. We were 90 yesterday. I think today we top out somewhere between 92 and 94. Your full forecast coming up in just a bit, guys.
Chris, thank you. Well, we start this half hour with a live look from Mount Hood. This is a live sky cam from the Mount Hood Meadows website. You can see all the smoke in the distance from the Grasshopper fire. You can really barely make anything out there.
And as of last update, that fire has burned more than 39,000 acres and is only 20% contained.
Yeah, there are several evacuations in place because of the Grasshopper fire, including on Mount Hood. That's where we find Corey Johnson this morning. Corey, what does it look like out there right now?
Yeah, right now, Matthew, China, we're at government camp, and really it has a distinct campfire smell out here. Very smoky conditions currently, and I also want to show you as daylight breaks a veil of smoke, it becomes more visible across that horizon over there, showing us just how much smoke remains in the air around the fire. Now, the Grasshopper fire continues to impact the Mount Hood area this morning, with evacuation levels remaining in place as crews work to keep it from spreading. And you know, describing conditions, as I mentioned, smoky right now at this hour. What we're seeing, many people we've seen wearing masks currently. The Grasshopper fire, it's burned more than 39,000 acres and is only 20% contained. Changing winds earlier this week prompted new evacuation orders, including level 3 go now evacuations on Mount Hood Meadows, while Government Camp and Timberline remain under level 1. And the smoke is also taking a toll. Air quality has reached the very unhealthy range at times, forcing Mount Hood Kiwanis Camp to cancel this week's session.
It's scary, right? Anytime you see with the damaging impacts of wildfires and some of the other areas, it's happened in the ski business before. And you just don't want to see it happen to all these homes and businesses. So it's scary for us, but we're prepared.
And fire officials say that evacuation levels can change very quickly, so it's important to stay up to date, as well as watching that fire behavior as it can change so quickly. Crews are doing that, and they're urging people to headed to the mountain to check conditions before they travel there. Of course, bring an N95 mask with you and just be aware of the conditions as you make your way here if this is your destination. Matthew, China.
Corey Johnson reporting live this morning for us this morning. Thank you, Corey. And if you have to be outside in the smoke, health officials say an N95 mask or better is your best option. They're designed to filter out most of the tiny particulates and particles found in the smoke, known as PM 2.5.
The bandanas, wet or dry, or dust masks, or those blue surgical masks are not effective in protecting against those very fine particulate matter, fine particles that I mentioned earlier.
Experts say the best protection is still limiting your time outdoors, especially when it comes to children, older adults, and people with underlying health conditions.
Well, check this out. What appears to be a spinning blaze rising out of a wildfire.
So this video from the Coleman Creek fire in eastern Oregon has been making the rounds online, with many calling it a fire tornado, but it's actually called a fire whirl.
The phenomenon acts very similar to how a dust devil forms. You'll get a localized superheated area of ground, and with that, it starts rising through the air.
And that rising air can then start to spin, pulling flames, smoke, and burning debris into a towering column. Experts say a true fire tornado is much rarer and requires a wildfire to create its own thunderstorm. They say that this is yet another example of how wildfires can create extreme and unpredictable conditions. And turning now to Spokane, where the firefighters are still working through hot spots left behind by the Old Trails fire. The fire is now 13% contained. It's responsible for the vast majority of destruction across the area. And now some people are starting to return home, only to find their houses just reduced to ash. At least 800 structures have been destroyed, but that number could be higher. New homeowner Matthew Kincannon hoped the Spokane River would hold the fire's advances, but when the news broke out that the fire jumped the river, he and his neighbors went scrambling for safety.
It was at 2 in the morning on Sunday. I was going through Facebook and I saw a video clip of somebody just driving by. On the right side of the road, I saw what looked like my neighborhood, and everything was gone.
And earlier this week, 37-year-old Aaron Fairnacci was arrested and charged with first-degree arson for starting the Old Trails fire. He is a convicted felon who served more than a decade in an Arizona prison for killing his father.
With resources stretched thin and a growing need, we've activated our Northwest Response Fund. You can donate using that QR code that's in the upper right corner of your screen there. Donations go directly to the Red Cross to help those impacted by wildfires in eastern Washington and throughout Oregon. If you want to donate in person, just visit any local U.S. Bank branch. Switching gears, 2 more people are in custody in connection to a shooting that injured a teen in Gresham over the weekend. One of the suspects, 19-year-old Cruz Aguilar, was found shortly after the shooting on Saturday. Meanwhile, early Wednesday morning, the Gresham Police Department says a SWAT team and other detectives arrested 2 14-year-olds. All 3 face attempted murder and other charges. The 17-year-old who was shot is still in the hospital. And a Gaston man has been arrested for murder in a case that's 30 years in the making.
And it's all from a combination of new DNA technology, testing evidence collected decades ago, and the investigative work from back then. 66-year-old Randall Gall was arrested by Washington County Sheriff's deputies on Tuesday for the 1994 murder of Vida Hardebeck right there. The 85-year-old was his neighbor, and it wasn't until last year when the case got a second look.
And they did all the things that you might expect. You know, they interviewed witnesses, they gathered evidence, they took photographs, etc. The ability to go back now and to see, you know, is there DNA that we can pull off of some of these items? That's the type of extra sensitive testing that we are asking these private labs to help us do.
The Washington County District Attorney says there are at least 30 cases going back to the 1970s that they believe are now solvable, and the cold case unit will continue to look into them.
3 Virginia teenagers are being called heroes after they dove into a lake to rescue a family whose kayak capsized. Gavin Kane was on the green during his high school golf tryouts when he heard something in the distance.
A birdie putt, and all of a sudden all I heard was this little kid screaming.
Well, it turns out 2 men and a young child were screaming for help 50 yards off the riverbank. Police say that area of the lake is nearly 20 feet deep. Gavin and his teammates dove into the water to save the kayakers. He says the child was wearing an adult-sized life vest and was bobbing in and out of the water. They flipped the kayak over and brought the boy and the 2 men to safety. Turns out the kayakers couldn't swim. Wow.
Meantime, an Astoria woman placed 3rd in this year's Round the World Yacht Race. The competition is a $40,000 nautical mile sailing race around the world. Despite not being a professional sailor, Heidi Brown was one of the best. The race is split into 8 legs, with crews taking on 1 or multiple legs. Heidi did all 8. During the race, teams crossed the equator twice, completed 6 ocean crossings, and faced all kinds of storms, strong waves, and extreme temperatures.
Wow. Well, we are getting back over to Chris for a check of the forecast. Yeah, it says don't go sailing today. Yeah, it wouldn't be a good day to be out
No, and in fact, guys, well, it's kind of a 2-part story here. The west side of the state will see improvement. I'll tell you what, though, I wanted to highlight this. This is from Oregon's Veterans Home in the Dalles. I mean, that looks like some of the densest fog you could imagine, right? That is all wildfire smoke. And unfortunately for folks that are downwind now of the Grasshopper fire, so that's the East Gorge, Hood River County, Wasco County, and out into the Columbia Basin, this is likely what you're going to be dealing with for a while at least. It's currently 59, by the way, in the Dalles. We had a wind shift yesterday, and that's what this is. This is visible satellite imagery from yesterday afternoon, and you can see we lose the daylight, and so the imagery disappears. Let's see, there we go. The winds out of the west drove a lot of that smoke plume east of the Cascades. And so we have not been dumping new smoke into the Willamette Valley and the I-5 corridor today. That said, everything that's out there is residual from days past. And as we look from Timberline Lodge, again, the fire is just off to the east here. So there is some smoke up there. In fact, this has actually gotten a little worse than say earlier this morning. But the point is that we're not just billowing smoke into the Rose City here. And that's why we do think our air quality will gradually improve today. Right now it's 63 degrees at PDX. Again, our smoke modeling backs that up. We've got a light westerly wind in the lower levels of the atmosphere that will help to scour some of that smoke out. But again, it's going to take a while from Portland and Vancouver and point south. Meanwhile, east of the Cascades, wish we had better news, but it's going to continue to be a smoke fest over there in the East Gorge and out across the Columbia Basin. The forecast today, because of the thinning smoke, will be warmer. I've got temperatures today getting into the lower 90s, maybe as warm as about 94. Remember, we were 90 on Tuesday and 90 yesterday, but again, the smoke has been kind of limiting the heating. As the smoke thins, our temperatures are likely to rise a little bit here in the Willamette Valley. Guys, back to you.
Thank you, Chris. Well, the KGW school supply drive is going on right now, and we need your help sending 15,000 local students back to school with everything they need. One of the best ways to donate is by going online. Just go to kgw.com/school and click donate cash. And it is a great week to give. All week long, for every $1 donated at any On Point branch, they will donate $5, making your donation go farther. And we want to thank On Point Community Credit Union, Safeway, Great Clips, and Rick's Custom Fencing for everything they're doing to make this year's supply drive a success.